Just wait for a few people to join. For those of you that get here, just let me know if you can see me in the comments or hear me in the comments, I should say. Doing a random live for the next 30 minutes to an hour. I've got some downtime. I just got done recording a video, so I thought, you know what, let's just jump on and have a chin wag and see what you guys and girls got to say. Literally did no planning for this. Hey, Brandon, how are you? What's going on? So far, you're the lone viewer. This was like a really last minute thing. Oh, there's another one here. Flint, how's it going? Thank you for the kind words. Dutch boy, how's it going? Not sure what time it is for you guys based in the US. It's 3:30 on Saturday afternoon here in Australia. Actually really bloody hot in Sydney at the moment, so I'm just trying to keep myself cool inside. I just did a video talking about this chasing cardboard theft via eBay. It's midnight, pretty late. Appreciate the kind words. So yeah, I'll talk about this video tomorrow, where you've essentially had people now starting to use AI to scam people on eBay. And they're basically getting packages using AI to make the cards look damaged, and then they're going ahead and using that to get refunds, which is really crappy. We've talked a little bit about AI being used in the past about trying to scam people, but you'll see my full thoughts on that tomorrow. I just want to talk about today on the card cleaning situation with those Wayne Gretzky's and also this Topps lawsuit, as well as any other questions that you guys might have in the comments. How's it going, Mikey? It's late. I can imagine it's still the Arvo. Kids are doing my head in at the moment. They're currently watching a movie, so I've got a bit of downtime. My one big complaint right now is people still saying the 86 Flair is Jordan's rookie when it is not. Is the 84 Star is as it's his first licensed card. Don't start that argument again. People love going back and forth on the rookie cards. Like, I'm indifferent. I think I flip-flop. I consider the 86 Flair to be the rookie, just given there's concerns about the Star and how much it was overprinted and printed outside of typical production and all that kind of thing. But there are a lot of people out there that think the Star is a true rookie card. But at the end of the day, the hobby thinks differently given the price points that we've seen. And I don't think the Star will ever reach the heights of the Flea. And that's probably despite people pushing really hard for that to happen. I just don't see it happening. I'm happy to have egg on my face on that, but they're my thoughts. So yeah, if anyone got any questions, if not, we can talk about some of this stuff that popped up. I also sold a card recently that I'm really regretting, but the price was far too good to be true. Maybe we can talk about that first. If you guys saw my best pickups for 2025, I showed off some cards that I picked up in 2024 but got graded last year. And one of those was this card on screen right now. This Flawless Soccer sold the game, Frank Lampard out of 10. It's authentic slab. I also showed an Andrea Pirlo version of this in the 10 as well. Somebody reached out after seeing my post on Instagram and, you know, sent me an offer. I countered with an offer that was a lot higher and a lot more than what I had paid, and they accepted and they sent me the money immediately, and I sort of regretted selling it straight away. It sold well above any other comp for that player. But it's an awesome card. Really sad to see it go, but the money was too good to be true. I essentially tripled my money, which is always good, right? Especially at the moment where some prices are coming down, especially in the soccer card market. Like Messi's down a little bit now compared to where he was. But yeah, I'm sure all you guys have stories on that too. But yeah, I'm on the lookout to try and find another copy now. I don't think I will, because that's the only one that I've seen sell in like 3 years. So I don't know. The money was just far too good to be true. And it wasn't a small amount of money either. Triple my money, it essentially means I can go ahead and buy a card now and get it for free. Or just put the money aside and, you know, get a few more tattoos, finish my bodysuit. I don't know. I'll figure something out. It's hard, right? And I'm sure you guys have all done that as well. Like, the card can stay there in my PC forever. I've always got this fear now that the card's going to sell for a lot more. I'm going to see it pop up on Golden or something and sell for 10 times what I paid for it. But that's the hobby, right? Sometimes you gotta let things go. But I'm not sure how many of you actually watched the cleaning video that I put out yesterday. I thought that was pretty wild. I did a bit more research and looked at some other forums, and it's crazy to see how normalized card cleaning is. And there are a lot of people out there that, you know, again, in that video said it was okay, and they simply said, you know, hey, PSA can't spot it, so who cares? But that's not the point. I made that pretty clear in my video. Like, just because they can't spot it doesn't mean it's a good thing to do, right? You quit buying cards last year and bought silver instead. Happy as hell now. A lot of people have obviously done that. I saw some stories from AIH Sports earlier today, and he was talking about the right time to do that would have been in 2022, obviously, and it's obviously still good to do it now, especially in the last couple of years. But if you had done it in 2022, you would be cheering right now. Does your wife have tattoos also? Yeah, she's got, I think, 2 or 3, just very small ones. Nothing major, not like me. My arms are done, my chest plates are done, my back is outlined. I'm going to do my front ribs in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see. I'm going to have a full bodysuit, hopefully in 2 or 3 years' time. But we'll see how that goes. It's a bit expensive, so I need to take it slowly. Yeah. Any other questions in the comments? If not, we'll just keep chin wagging about random crap. Yeah, so what did you guys think about from this card cleaning thing? Like, are you still surprised by it these days? Like, I think, I thought that hill sort of came and gone, or that wave came and gone, because we spoke about it a lot. It was really big a couple of years ago. It was right around the time that Kurt actually got banned from PSA, Kurt's Card Care. And that seemed to really peak, but it's basically come back. And I don't know. I feel like we're pretty close to PSA actually offering this as a service. I didn't talk about that in a lot of detail in my last video, but, they put out that survey a few months ago asking the question to collectors on whether or not they would be interested in, paying for that if PSA did in fact offer it, which is obviously being done because they're thinking about doing it. They're not going to ask the question if they're not. And they're probably also trying to see what the sentiment is amongst people. But yeah, like it's just surprising to me that in 2026, you've still got people thinking it's okay. And more importantly, you've got people that are oblivious to this kind of thing and what the concerns are. There was somebody in the comments of the video talking about, they were actually reached out to Kurt's Card Care and were going to offer him money to do something for them, and then backed out of it once they realized some of the concerns that were raised in my video. So yeah, it's just crazy to me that still happens, right? Pressing comments rather than not do it. Yeah, and I'm the same, right? I was never a big fan of comics being pressed. I'm a comic book collector. I've said that time and time again. I think I've got like over 10,000 books still in my collection. But that was something that collectors did for a long time. That was obviously a lot easier to spot because the books come out super flat when they're pressed. But CGC eventually said, you know what, like we can't stop this. People are doing it in droves. There's a huge revenue opportunity there. Let's just go ahead and start offering it ourselves. And that's what they went ahead and did. And that was always the example that people like myself and Neo Cards and Comics used to talk about why PSA might actually do this themselves. So I think it's going to happen. What would be interesting to sort of see is now that PSA owns or collectors owns 3 graders, whether or not they trial it with a certain grader. Like I don't think they're going to go straight out and do it with PSA, but maybe the BGS brand, maybe the SJC brand is enough for them to sort of risk tarnishing by putting some clean cards into their slabs via their service. But the other concern with this is like it's not just them doing it, right? They're going to now have to have a liability off the back of it. Like if they're offering this as a service, they need to guarantee to you as the customer that it's actually not going to damage the card long term. Because if it is, a service that collectors offers, and then that card, 10 years down the line splits, like we've seen with some cards being soaked in the past. Sometimes we've seen them split after a few years. You had Orlando from A Collector's Dream, I think his channel, it's slipping my mind at the moment, purchased the card, the stains came back because somebody had cleaned it before he went ahead and bought it. Them as a company offering it as a service now needs to guarantee that that's not going to happen. And if it does happen, they need to pay out, right? Because there's going to be some kind of liability on their part. So it's not as simple as simply just wiping down a card, right? There's a bit more nuance to it. If grading companies announce they can detect it, people might stop it. Yeah, but you physically can't. I know we've seen Pete from SGC, formerly the CEO, president, whatever he was of SGC, come out in the past, and they can see when people have used polish on Chrome cards before because it comes out so illuminated and so shiny. But like they can't spot it. It's just one of those things where they're just clearly trying to protect their brand and trying to protect their insurance premiums, because that just raises a lot of questions as well, right? If they have all this kind of stuff going on and they can't actually detect it, what does that mean for themselves? And when you look at the volume of cards being graded these days, like they're probably spending less than a couple of minutes looking at your card anyway. And you really think they're going to look at it to find alterations? Like it's just a funny thing, and it's a peculiar element to card grading that people just seem to ignore. Like they see the elephant in the room, but they choose to ignore it, right? Because They don't want grading to be diminished. It's the same thing when people see all these issues with PSA 9s and PSA 10s and 10s that look like 9s and 9s that look like 10s. They purely go off the label. And they don't press further because they know if they do, it sort of undermines and alienates the entire process. Like, people are pretending grading is not an issue. People are pretending that PSA is head and shoulders above the rest. People are pretending that PSA 10s look better than anything else. And if you actually look at the card yourself, you see that it's not the case. But they just choose to ignore it. It's just wild how some people choose to operate. And I've talked about that before. I'm going on a rant now, but a lot of people share that sentiment. And I feel like there's a lot of sheep in this space. That goes without saying. And that's what makes me nervous. I've talked about in the past about concerns that I have in this industry because everybody's moving the same way. And the way people are moving are not towards the right things. They're paying money for all this ridiculous product. They're putting so much value on cards that don't matter, that are so overprinted. They're hyper-focusing in on the label, not the grades. Like, if everybody's doing that, eventually the music's going to stop. Eventually something's going to click. And it's going to be like a bit of a dominoes because they're not doing anything independently from each other. They're all doing the same sort of crap. And the penny's going to drop for all of them at the same time. So I've talked about this a lot in my videos. It's sort of, probably you guys are sick and tired of hearing it, but that's why I get nervous. Everyone's moving the same way and they're just following each other. And eventually they're going to follow each other out. At least that's how I see it. Because you can't have people legitimately say, hey, I'd prefer to own a PSA 10 versus a PSA 9 that looks better than that 10. Especially with vintage cards where eye appeal is everything. Like, it's crazy to me how that hyper-focus happens. Like, it doesn't make sense. You put it in front of any other collector and they're going to pick the better looking card 9 times out of 10. Do you think PSA 9 will eventually be worth more than Raw? Like, I got no idea, to be honest. I think there are too many slabs out there and there's too many cards being printed these days. Like, perhaps for serial numbered cards under a shorter production, but there's just too much product out there. There's too many cards. There's too many cards and slabs. Like, I think we're past that point now. We might even see a point where some cards sell for cheaper Raw than they do in PSA 10 slabs. Like, we might reach that point eventually because every card is essentially in a slab and people might just want things raw. I don't get it. I don't think I'll ever understand it. I'm sure it's the same for all you guys, but you know, it is what it is. When I got this, you know, when I got this card graded, right, it was raw initially, and PSA had just brought back the service, I forget what it's called, where you give them a minimum, the minimum grade threshold, is that what it's called? Where you set a grade, if it comes back, they can either send it back to you raw or on authentic slab. I put a PSA 8 on this. So I've said before, if I ever sell this card, I'm going to tell people to fail it as a PSA 8. It's probably a PSA 6 or 7. Where was I going with that? Yeah, like the reason why I went ahead and did that rather than just coming back raw or having a lower grade is because people pay more for authentics than they do 7s or 6s. Whereas in my mind, I wouldn't do that because if I say an authentic, it sure means the card's authentic, but it would be authentic regardless of whether or not it says it or not because it's in a PSA slab, right? But for me, I'd rather a numbered grade. I'd rather a 6 or a 7 or whatever because it's irrelevant to me. I just want the card in a slab. I want it in my PC. But the fact that you have people out there willing to pay more for authentic than 7s and sometimes 8s is just insane to me because people are too hyper-focused on this crap versus what it's actually telling you about the card. So I lost my train of thought there, but hopefully you guys got the point of what I was trying to say. Like, it's just wild. It's just wild. What are you doing live with the Australia Open on? I've actually not paid attention to it this tournament. I'm pretty over tennis at the moment, to be honest. I've not watched the Australian Open for a long time. I used to watch it a lot as a kid, but it's I don't know, I'm just over it these days. Maybe because I've got kids now, I'm too much around. School holidays is for us at this time, so my daughter was not at daycare for like 6 weeks, so just a lot going on. It's also right in the middle of our summer, so I've been spending a lot of time fishing and at the beach and stuff like that. So yeah. It is what it is. I don't even know when the final is. I've not paid that. That's how little attention I've paid to the Australian Open in recent years. Welcome, Mike. How are you? But yeah, I was obviously going on a tangent then. You're just worried setting my cards to PSA and have to pay more or not to get the grade it deserves, whether be better or worse. I see too much bad not to worry. I don't know what to do, honestly. Like I keep. Like I've talked about this before, CGC is my go-to for my PC. They're the only grading company that protects you as the submitter. I've said that time and time again. I've gone blue in the mouth because I've said it so many times. People are sick of hearing it. But they're the only company that will protect you. So I send everything in my PC because I'm not looking to sell this crap. PSA only protects you if you're the buyer of the slab, not the submitter. So, you know, I get no protection by sending it to PSA. The other reason why I've sent to them in recent months for some of my cards, and I've always done this very selectively, is because it gives me more protection if I ever want to sell them. which happened with that Andre Pirlo that I sold that I said at the start, right? I probably wouldn't have got 3 times what I paid for it had I, not sent it to PSA and had I sent it to CGC. So it's about being a bit more critical. Like CGC is the way to go. It's a no-brainer for your PC. But if you're looking to have a card and you're a bit concerned about value long-term, or you're not sure if you want to keep it long-term, send it to PSA. You're going to maximize your money. And I think it's the way to go until the sheep wake up and realize that, there are other options out there aside from PSA, albeit, now 3 of them are owned by the same pumpkins. Hello, happy now. CGC PC here as well. I'm really curious to sort of see what they do now that BGS has essentially been acquired by PSA. I'm surprised they didn't try and buy BGS. Maybe they did. But they're a bit of a dark horse. They're obviously grading a lot of TCG at the moment. They're really big when it comes to things like One Piece and Dragon Ball Super and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like they're a bit of a dark horse. I'm curious to see how much of the market share they can steal away from PSA. But yeah, like maybe we don't even see that happen because people are sheep and they just throw money hand over fist at PSA simply because they like the red labels. It depends, right? I think you're talking about like submitting to PSA. I think you just need to be pragmatic, right? Like apply a risk-averse mindset. Like makes no sense to not submit to PSA if there's opportunities there for you to make money or opportunities for you to sort of command more money for your PC. And I know I just said the same thing twice, but what I mean is if you're looking to sell, go to PSA. It's a no-brainer. You're leaving money on the table. If you might be selling in the future or you're not sure, you want to have some cards as collateral from your PC that you might want to trade or flip, get them also on PSA slabs because it's going to make your life a lot easier. I miss the days of being a kid and having binders made you the man. I agree. I've still got some. I've talked about this before. I still make binders from some sets. My whole wardrobe is to the left of me is filled with them. The wife hates it. I've still got some that I made as a kid from some footy cards that I had. But yeah, and this is actually a good point, Mike. You got to wait it out for 8 to 9 months, which is horrible, right? I saw in an interview, I sort of missed, when I got these cards graded, I sort of missed the increase in the turnaround. I think it happened maybe a week or 2 after I got my cards back. But some people are still waiting like 55 business days or something, right? 35 business days just to get notification that your cards were received by them. I cannot comprehend that where you're purely there. They're a card in, card out business, right? They're literally processing inventory. I don't understand how they have not, improved that or made that more efficient or made that more transparent for collectors, because there's a lot of money being left on the table there. And, their focus is on churn, right? Getting as many cards through the door as possible, getting as many cards out and graded. But that entry point should be fixed. It's a huge bottleneck for them. It's crazy to think that they've graded, 20 million cards last year. And how many more could they have graded had their, intern, what's the word I'm looking for? Their goods in, my brain is not working. The cards coming in, had they managed that better, they probably could have graded, 20, 30% more cards than what they did. And that's a shitload of revenue being lost. So, they need to fix that. They've talked about fixing it, but it's crazy. Like they need that process to be a lot more transparent. They're leaving so much money on the table that it's insane to me. I'm literally hoping I get my grading back before ComC goes bankrupt. I won't even get started with my Becca grading. So much stress. Yeah, ComC is a bit scary. There's been a lot of people that have talked about them going under. I can't see them disappearing, to be honest. I think they're too big and they're too integrated within the wider industry. I've not used them for a long time myself, but I can see them getting acquired by a TOPS or a CGC, to be perfectly honest with you. So let's sort of wait and see what happens there. But that's where my mind would go. You handed your submission to PSA at Burbank on November 29th. Still waiting to hear they have received it. That's insane. Like that should not happen. Like that's insane. That's the element where they just need the more transparency, right? They need more communication. It's crazy. You agree? What were you saying about chasing cardboard earlier? I filmed a video just before going live. Ty Wilson, who's the guy from Chasing Cardboard, came out and flagged that people have been using AI to show some of his cards being damaged that he sells on eBay, and they're using that to scam him, and eBay is actually siding with the buyers, and he's actually losing some money. So Dustin talked about it today. His video is performing pretty well. The story from Ty popped up a couple of days ago. I was going to record something yesterday, but got stuck with the kids, so I didn't. But we've seen other people talk about it. I think Neo talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Matt's Card Shop is an Aussie collector. He does some card vlogs and things like that. Pretty cool dude, so go ahead and check him out. Talked about it, so I show all this in my video. You'll see that in about 12 hours time, that video will drop. So yeah, stay tuned. But basically, long story short, is people are using AI to pretend or alter images of of cards that arrive, packages, to say they are altered and damaged and they deserve refunds. Pretty shady stuff, pretty shitty. But one of those things that we need to be protecting ourselves on. So I'll give a few examples on what we can do as collectors to avoid this happening to us from both a buyer and seller perspective. And it's shit, it's not foolproof, but it's the only thing we can do these days. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it because people are getting more and more desperate, and there's just a lot of dickheads out there, unfortunately. 2 months before they acknowledge their 95 business days bullshit, they go over that. Yeah, I completely agree. It's total shit. I'm surprised they've not been sued off the back of it, to be honest. And I'm not sure what the legal mumbo jumbo is all around that, but I find it crazy how they can say it's an estimate, but they pick and choose when they want to start counting those days. And I think they're talking about fixing that. That was one of the things that I think Nat Turner came out and said, but it's a joke. 55 days should mean 55 days, 55 business days. You meet it or you don't. It should, and they're obviously buying themselves some window there by clearly not saying your cards have been received, because obviously that's when the counter starts. So I'd be curious to see if there's ways to fix that, or if they can get sued off the back of it, or customers complain. But we'll sort of wait and see. I would have thought if there was opportunities for class actions, we would have seen something like that by now. But again, the hobby hasn't had the eyes that it's had in the last 2 years before. So maybe we're going to see something happen soon. Speaking of class actions, we saw that Tops thing the other day. I'm still waiting for that law firm to get back to me. They've completely ghosted me. I'm not sure, whether we see anything off the back of that, but that whole false advertising thing is also completely unacceptable. The fact that you've got, those kinds of mistakes happening where they're mislabeling boxes when they print them to say you can get certain hits when you can't is insane. I just don't get it. I also spoke about Whatnot the other day, adding a feature in there for you to set limits on the amount of money you can spend and also the amount of time you can spend watching on the platform. And I thought that was really good. It didn't get a whole lot of views. I think like 500 people watched it, which is shit, but it is what it is. But one of the things I speculated in that video was that it's odd how they sort of came out and announced that when there was a lot of pushback for that to be there years ago, and they did it with no fanfare, right? They didn't announce it. It sort of went under the radar. Nobody talked about it. I would have sat there and thought they're paying all these influencers, right, to spruik their platform. Surely they're going to talk about it and get them to talk about it to bring attention back to their platform, saying, hey, we're doing all the right things. We're doing all these amazing things. I was trying to understand, like, why were they not talking about it? Why they not do a big song and dance? Well, I saw something from Boston Card Hunter on Instagram this morning. There's rumors that Whatnot is looking to do an IPO, is what he's alleging. So I haven't watched it in detail yet, but that makes sense why they've gone ahead and implemented something like this, right? They've probably done it to support the IPO and the questions that might come up off the back of that. So let's watch this space. But, that was where my mind went eventually, or immediately, sorry. I couldn't comprehend why they would go to all that effort to implement something that people have been begging for, and then they didn't flag it, didn't talk about it, didn't announce it. So clearly the IPO has given that some substance. They're just printing money. More cards means more grading. Agree. Or to get bullshit grades and no discounts, only charges for cards not graded and up charges. They are selling, vaulting authenticity for eBay fudge packs. I effing hate the F out of them. You're not the only one. It's a joke, and it's really concerning. One of the things that went under the radar actually with them was the authenticity guarantee, not the authenticity guarantee stuff, the certified repacks they did for Jeff Wilson. I talked about this in a video, and it didn't really get any traction at all. Jeff flagged in a video that the repacks were put together incorrectly. Like they had cards in the wrong packs. I think Jeff said that on one of his Jeff Wilson shows, and I can go back and find the video later on and put it in the comments if anyone's keen, but that got no alarm bells off the back of it. Like you've got a company there that people raise questions on their ability to actually certify repacks, because what the fuck does PSA know about certifying repacks? They get paid to do it. This whole song and dance happens, and then Jeff comes in and says, hey, they stuffed up. They actually put the wrong cards in the wrong repack, or some cards didn't make it into the product. It's like, well, what were PSA looking at? They're there to certify the repack. What the fuck were they looking at? So crazy. It's a shit show across the board, and it's like that for the whole industry. You've got all these same idiots that are running these businesses, have been running them since before the hobby blew up, and they're still running them, and they're running them like they were operating 10 years ago, where nobody gave a shit about this hobby, yet they're just taking all this money hand over fist now because they can. And they're not meeting the same level of accountability for the money being spent. Boston Card Hunter also broke the news that Backyard Breaks pays 0 fees to Whatnot. That's interesting. So Whatnot would only be making the money off of people purchasing, right? The buyer's fee, not the selling fee. which makes sense. I think I've talked about that before as well. That would be what I would do if I was Fanatics Live. I've said that time and time again. There's two additional ways they could make revenue. One would be mandating that if you want to be a breaker in the Tops network and you want to buy product directly from us, you have to break on our platform exclusively. You can't break on anything else. And that would be additional revenue for them. And then obviously you're doing the same sorts of things with repacks on them. They can sort of double count the money being spent because they can charge the sale of the box and then also the commission. LOL, an IPO might open whatnot to scrutiny that forces them into regulation, which goes to my point, right? That's why I think they've probably implemented this, buy and watch limit, because, that kind of news raises a shitload of scrutiny, like you said, and they want to have things there ready to go. So it's the only thing I can think of where they've gone ahead and implemented a feature that was much needed, much called for, right? People were jumping up and down saying you need to protect consumers in these instances. They sort of ignored it, and then, went ahead and implemented it without saying anything. It's wild. And the only thing I can think of is there's an IPO coming because that sort of makes sense, and they want to keep it on the down low to raise further questions being raised. They simply want it there to say, hey, if the question comes up, yes, it's there. And if they start talking about it, that might get whispers and eyeballs, and then people start digging a little bit deeper. Strongsville/Independence is around the corner. A few months for first pitch. Time to enjoy some baseball. Actually, not big on baseball, but Mike Petty's obviously really keen. How many months until the season kicks off? I don't recall exactly, but I'm really looking forward to the rugby league season. That starts again in March, I think it is. End of March, so not long to go now. I'll be going to every game again. I've had season tickets for over 20 years. My team's terrible. I'm sure a few guys can attest to that or relate to that with some of your teams. But that's why we like sport, right? Again, having to walk the line, if you want to break it through Fanatics, that's no different than a franchise owner of a Subway. You have to honor and pay your dues. I agree. I think that's not a good thing, though, because I think it opens up a lot of can of worms, especially with how this industry operates. But that's what I would do if I was them. They're leaving so much revenue on the table. And I think, if they truly wanted to clean up breaking and the concerns around breaking and repacking, that would be one way for them to do it, because they'd say, you can only buy product with us if you're on our platform, which means you have to meet our rules. And if you don't, you can F off. And then also hold people accountable if they start selling the product to other people, as in boxes, like one, whatnot breaker sells it to another that's not, a Fanatics align, right? They can hold things or what's what I'm looking for? And they can hold people accountable there too. Put more rules in, and that's not a good thing, because we look at what they're doing with local card stores and sort of closing down card stores and closing down direct accounts and all that kind of thing. But, in theory, if they wanted to fix it through those methods, they could. That's how I would approach it, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, it's a fun getaway. Sports are to enjoy and meet others who just want to have fun. That is why we are passionate about the hobby when crap goes sideways. Exactly. And that's what's interesting as well, right? I've talked about this before. Like, when I see young kids collecting these days, a lot of them are collecting Pokemon and things like that. But do you guys think we're seeing the same sorts of things when it comes to sports? Because, like, for us, right, at least from my generation, it was obviously the case before my generation, but you're crazy about these sports teams. You follow them super closely. You collect your players. You collect the players you like. You avoid the players you hate, and there's passion behind it. But, you've got so much flipping now that people don't seem to care about the cards themselves. And, like, is that care going to be there in 10, 15, 20 years' time? Or is it simply different now? Are they not approaching it the same way? So, obviously, there's a lot to think about there, but it's one of those thoughts that are always in the back of my head. I'm seeing less and less people interested in sports at a younger age too, in terms of following the teams and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Random thought that just popped into my head. Your first exposure was accidentally following a crowd to a Rugby World Cup game and seeing Sebastian Chantel decimate mortal men. Which World Cup? Off subject, but last week it took me 30 minutes to crack open a new PSA slab to send to BGS. Man, that took a lot of energy and it was stressful. More stress than I would ever feel at work even, which is pretty funny that you've cracked out a PSA slab, basically send it back to PSA now that they own BGS. But yeah, I'm not trying to crack open the new PSA slabs. They seem a lot thicker, to be honest. BGS slabs have always been notoriously hard for me to open. I think the easiest would be tag. I think I showed that off in the video where I basically cracked it with my bare hands. But yeah, CGC slabs are also tough to crack open. I think the old PSA slabs were super easy to open as well. I'm just looking at some slabs on my table, that's why I'm looking away. Brent, that's awesome. That's all it takes. A little flame to catch your interest. His whole life is rented. Enjoy it. Good way to put it. 2008-ish. Was it the one in France? Is that the one you're referring to? Wonder how PSA cracks slabs. You'd be curious to sort of see how they approach that, right? I wonder if, because obviously they go through the press. I forget what it's called. Someone can tell. My brain is not working today. The fucking sonic welder that they use. I wonder if there's a way to like de-sonic weld a slab. Maybe they have something like that. Or they've got some poor bozo out there that's whole job is to just open slabs before they go ahead and put them in the new ones. How's it going, Charles? Yeah, the new slabs have a flexible plastic, doesn't crack much like the polyethylene. Yeah, so yeah, the French World Cup. Who won 08? I don't remember. Was it France? I'm not like, so you guys need to remember that there's two forms of rugby. There's rugby union and rugby league. I'm a rugby league supporter. Rugby union, which is what the Rugby World Cup is that you're referring to, is very much a private school sport here in Australia. I think it's the same as it is in England, whereas rugby league, it's a little bit more fast-paced, is a working class sport. And fun fact about that, so the reason why it split off, so they started off as one rugby competition in England, and the way the rules were set up back then was that you basically had to be a high wealth, like basically a wealthy individual to play the sport, because the games were played on certain days. I think it was on Saturdays or Sundays, and the working class people couldn't play it on those days, and they weren't basically allowed to play the sport as a result. So they went off and formed their own sport to break away and built this thing that was called Northern Union at the time, and then turned into Rugby League, which is the biggest, rugby competition here in Australia. We have a team that plays from New Zealand as well, but that's where my team, the Parramatta Eels, are from, which is that flag and jersey you can see. What the fuck? There, over this shoulder. Brain not working. You guys get the point. Was also a beast for South Africa that year. Yeah, I didn't pay, like, I'm not a huge rugby union fan. I'll obviously watch some games of the World Cup and things like that, but, rugby league is just such a better sport. You guys should go ahead and watch highlights of the NRL. It's a lot better than what rugby union is, in my opinion. You're too drunk to remember. That's a good memory to have. I should move to the USA. I've thought about it. A bit hard. My whole family's here, right? What I do for a living gives me the ability to go and work in other locations and go work for other member firms. But I feel like I'm a bit too old now, too hard with the kids. So yeah, I've only been to the US once. I was there for my honeymoon in 2015, I think it was. Went to LA, went to Vegas, Miami, went to a few other places too that I can't recall. But yeah, we spent like 4 or 5 weeks there. Ken Golden ended up getting the Illustrator Pokemon card reholded for Logan Paul, and it's still got a PSA 10, which is insane, right? I think I saw that this morning. I think he said the reason why he did it is because slab was scratched. But that's the one that Rattle Pokemon, right, was been talking about for weeks about being previously a PSA 9. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. So it's interesting, right? And it's another case of rules for some and not others, because, had you had another instance, maybe not as popular card, maybe not as popular person get submitted, they probably would have turned around and said, hey, it's actually an 8, it's actually a 9. Yeah, so it is the card that was complaining about for a long time being previously a 9. It's insane. It's just rules for some, not others. As it's always been in this space, it's going to be part of the good old boy network, or you're shafted. If you knew me a lot better, you'd know that I'm not too smart. I guess PSA is a clamp/jig fixture to clamp on the card part. Yeah, okay. It'd be interesting to sort of see them do it, right? They should release a video on how to show how they open these slabs, and maybe there's ways that people can do it more safely. But it's always funny to watch people go ahead and open slabs that have no idea what they're doing, and they're using like flathead screwdrivers, and they just all of a sudden push in and scratch the card. It's like, guys, just do 5 minutes of research and you'll be fine. Better just remove from a slab and send it in. I agree, especially if you're looking to try and get a regrade or get a bump, right? There's always going to be some form of bias there, good or bad. You might catch a grader on the bad day. Grader might have an inherent bias towards a certain grader or grade or grading company. So, just send it in raw, and that's the way to go. You cracked a Yamamoto 7 rare rookie card from PSA, and it magically came back a BGS 8.5. It pretty much cracked up in a good way. That's good. I think I've only ever gone down. I've only ever gone from BGS to PSA, when they've always come back lower, unfortunately. Saw that Charles Kent is a walking commercial. It was, money talks. Unfortunately, that is certainly true. Especially with in the last couple of days, you've had Kevin O'Leary with Shine interviewed. I don't know what news network it was in the US, but talking about the card that he paid $10 million for, $12 million for fucking, what, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago is now worth $20 million. These guys are idiots. Also, We The Hobby just pulled another Cooper flag, 1 of 1. This one was an image variation. It's the third one they've pulled. Insane. Like, I don't get it anymore, guys. Like, I don't know what it is to say. And we've seen a lot of people, talk about, loaded boxes and all this kind of stuff and how it's getting better. Like, this is stuff that's been talked to death for years by myself and like AIH Sports, Sports Card Radio, and it's still the same, right? It's not changing. People are still surprised to see it. I just don't know what to say anymore. I'm tired. Is it from the Grand Mile or is the I'm tired boss? Is that where it's from? Or is that from something else? I can only see the meme in my head. And the card was stolen and should be used to pay his exactly, because it was also part of the liquid marketplace, right? Where that was one of the cards that was fractionalized on that platform and then got sold, and people that were part of the fractionalization didn't get their money back. It's fucking insane. And I don't get why there's no more accountability. Like, from a PSA perspective, like, why aren't PSA sitting there saying, hey, this card is owned, there's question marks about it, we don't want it in our slab. Hey, you sent it back to us, thank you for doing that, Ken, but guess what, fuck you, we're going to take it out of the slab and leave it raw. We're not going to put our name brand on this because we've got concerns about the legitimacy of it. Like, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they, holding the leverage? Why aren't they, using their leverage in that particular instance to do right by the wider community? And like, people say they don't care. I just don't think people are smart enough there to think about wanting to do that in the first place. Like, why are they not thinking about that? What was it? Pantheon, corn hunting, regular hobbyists have no way of pulling any chase cards without buying into breaks, and it's bullshit. I completely agree. I was trying to think of ways. I might do a video on this, talk about ways that a card company, a card manufacturer could, make it better for collectors to get hits, and maybe it's, put some of these hits in lower end boxes, make it more readily available. Like, I saw Wax Museum podcast talked about, I think a Wembanyama from a certain game milestone that he had. They put a jersey or a piece of the basketball, I think it was, in a 1 of 1, and he asked the question, like, what are they doing with the rest of those patches from that basketball? Like, put it into base cards that go into your cheapest product. Let some kid out there be able to get a game used Victor Wembanyama basketball, right? Don't put everything like that in your high-end stuff. Make it more readily available. That's ways they could make the more affordable boxes, chased for kids. Or if a kid decides to go ahead and buy a hanger box, they can get, that kind of hit off the back of it. And obviously that's not going to happen because the print runs and the chances of that happening are non-existent. But, they need to think of ways to put that cool shit in the cheaper stuff. Maybe that means the cheaper stuff then becomes the more expensive stuff, but I don't know. That's what I'd be trying to do. One thing I hate hearing is people admiring tag when those slabs are the most brittle. Imagine how much more brittle those plastic. Exactly. I think their slabs look fantastic in person. I only had one and I cracked it on camera. You guys would have seen the video. It cracked super easy in my bare hands, and I've got really bad arthritis in my fingers. So like, for me to be able to do that means that, you can almost crack it with no fingers, to be honest. But yeah, they look great, but they're just brittle. And like, part of the reason why you get a card slab is for protection. And that thing makes me nervous about whether or not it's actually a protected card if it does fall, as I've talked about before. I'm glad to catch you live. The hobby always one-ups itself each year. It's frustrating to be a collector. Like, yeah, it is with all the scandals, but the hobby's still fun, right? Like, there's a lot more good out there than bad. It's just good to talk about this sort of stuff to help your fellow collector and help the new collectors be aware of what's out there. They'll put a superfractor in a blaster box, but it'll be like someone, like a washed vet or no-name rookie. Yeah, like, and it should be, but they should do it across the board. Like, that's the problem. They do it half-assed, which is essentially what you're saying here. They don't think about it. Like, it'd be cool to have, all that high-end shit you want to put in there for Wembanyama, for your Otanis, for your Mike Trouts, other people that I can't think of right now. Like, just have some cool game use shit in your very entry-level product. And put in base cards that are not serial numbered. Make it so the volume of them is insane. Put 10,000 of them out there. Put a tiny piece of his fucking basketball in a card, so you can have 10,000 of those cards out there. Like, it's not going to be worth anything, so people are not going to care about them, but a kid getting that in a box is going to lose his fucking mind. So do shit like that. Like, I don't understand why they won't do shit like that. Yeah, well, I do, because they don't care, and there's no need to, because nobody actually cares enough to make them do it. While we kind of approve it, do you think PSA actually limit grade cards? Say a card has been graded 3 times and they are all PSA 10s. Do you think... I think it happens. It probably happens more with vintage. And I think it happens for different reasons. Like, I don't know if there's people out there intentionally lowering grades. Maybe there is. it's probably more that you've got inherent biases out there. Like how many vintage graders does PSA have? Let's say there's 10. They've been doing it for 50 years, right? 30 years, whatever it's been. PSA's been around 30 years, 25 years. You know, they've probably got this inherent bias in them that whenever they look at that card, they maybe spend a bit more time looking at it, or they're a bit more hesitant grading it because of concerns in the past. So, like, I just think it's a process breakdown rather than people out there legitimately lowering grades. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? I don't think we'll ever know the answer to it, but that's where my mind would go. I think it's a process breakdown and the ability for bias to impact the process because people are, you know, having too much control. PSA certainly pop control their cards. Panini had exclusive Firestorm hits for their WWE and Blasters, but then Breakers bought cases. Yeah, agree. But they need to think about ways they could fix that. And maybe it is not put it on their direct network. Maybe it only is putting it in stores. But, you know, then you're going to have scalpers go ahead and buy them all. You know, one of the good things that stores have done locally here in Australia recently, Costco did this with some of their Pokemon releases where the boxes are like 50% cheaper than when they are with the official releases. They limit it to one per customer and actually track you as the buyer. And they'll ban you if you try and buy a second box, or they'll ban you if they catch you trying to pay someone to buy you a second box. So maybe there's ways to sort of have Panini do this and Topps do this, but then mandate for stores that, hey, if you actually want to sell this product and have our product in your stores, you need to, you know, enforce this kind of rules. Now, maybe that's me being too wishful thinking because how are they going to police it? That's a lot of revenue lost if they go ahead and say, hey, Target, you didn't fucking police this, so guess what? You're not getting our product anymore. Like, they need that product in Target stores. So I don't know. I don't know if there is a way to fix it, but they need to think of ways. Like, we can't have it going the way it is. It's not sustainable. I see, as I noticed something odd with cards I graded at Collector Charles. There's a few famous cards within PSA, especially some vintage cards, which are notoriously really far behind what the traditional gem rate percentages are. Also, when there's hundreds of boxes of Topps Chrome Sapphire basketball already in breaks when it wasn't even pre-sold, yeah, it's a fucking joke. And that's another thing that Topps could do. Like, Fnatic could fix that, but basically saying you cannot break this product on our platform. You can only break on our platform if you buy it from us, and if we catch you selling it early, we're gonna, you know, ban you from our platform. Like, there's things that could happen to streamline it, but they don't, you know, at the end of the day, they don't care because from their perspective, the money's the same. Whether it comes from me, you, or a breaker, it all goes to them in the same way. So they don't really give a shit. And for them to go ahead and police it and fix it, they're going to have to spend money. So they're going to be eating into their revenue streams. And they just don't seem to care about the sustainability long term. So, you know, it is what it is. You once waited 26 months for a Ken Griffey Jr. Panini auto redemption. That's 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays, and 4 girlfriends. Only 4, mate. You need to do a bit better than that. You're a big F1 collector, and Topps made a printing mistake with Grail cards for the 2025 product. They were meant to have codes, but didn't. Today they took accountability and offered 5K in fan cash. I'm interested. I haven't actually seen that, so I'm going to look into it. Apologies if you can hear my son screaming. That's actually good that they've actually looked to fix it. Counterpoint to what Topps did recently, right? With Topps Chrome, so they can do the right thing if they want to. Very good points. Never thought of it that way. It only came up for me, but as I graded 3 identical cards over a 3-month period, they came back 9, 8, and 7. The 7 made me think. Did you have photos of them? I'd be interested to see how comparable they actually are to each other. Another thing is how inflated / fake grade pop counts are millions at this point. Imagine every single person who cracked them resubmitted, none of them are reported. Exactly. Like, it's insane to me. It's like the dead internet theory. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that before, but they're saying that the interaction on the internet is actually a lot less than what people think, and a lot of it's bot comments and bot views and all that kind of thing. The PSA pop report's almost like that, where you've got a lot more cards that exist in those pop reports because people keep cracking and resubmitting. It's just dead. It's not reliable. And it's only going to get worse, like you said. Yeah, little man is pissed. Yeah, if packs didn't cost a freaking arm and a leg, I could. But yeah, he definitely needs one. My daughter's actually really into Pokemon at the moment. I've opened some packs with her. I bought some the other day. Didn't get anything good, but she had fun. She likes playing around with the cards and throwing them at her brother, unfortunately. Hi, guys. Late to this one. Hey, Paddy. Oz open in delay because, yeah, it's freaking hot today. Like, what's the temp right now? So I'm in Sydney. Melbourne's typically a bit more cooler than Sydney, but let's check what the temperature currently is. So it's only 27, but it's also 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's actually really humid today, but if I change this to, it's actually 28. If I change this to, see if I can put it as Rod Laver Arena. Give me a sec. Melbourne, it's 37 degrees Celsius today. It's actually gone through a heat wave. It's going to be 40 degrees at 7 p.m. So the game actually might be delayed even longer than that, which is pretty wild. Yeah, 41. Like, fuck. It's going to be 40 in Sydney, I think, on Australia Day, which is Monday. So not looking forward to that because the Aussie sun, as you'd know, Carl, because you are from Oz, is bloody hot. Fascinating to me how Oz is in a heat wave and I'm in the eastern United States and we're about to get a foot of snow in Arctic temps. Wouldn't have it any other way. I can't stand the cold. I hate, like, the summer in Australia is like, it's good and bad. It's so freaking hot that some days it just kills you, but it's a really good time to fish, and obviously everyone's on school holidays and stuff like that, so it's a good time to spend with the family. But yeah, our winters are just rainy and wet. I think the snow would make it much more enjoyable, to be honest with you. Then what is next on your want list for 2026? Comics, a card, or a vintage toy? I don't know. Like, last year I had some money set aside for some of these hot toy stuff you can see behind me. The Back to the Future Part 3 DeLorean came out. So I paid for that. That's a 1/6 scale DeLorean. It's pretty cool. I'll show that off in a members only video. In the coming days, I'm going to film a video, and just a reminder, if you guys want to sign up to be a member, that's available now. I've fixed it. There were some issues with that over the last few months, but I've only got one member at the moment because when I basically fix it, all the existing members got removed. But that'll be on a members only video for guys to see what's on my shelf, and then eventually I'll make it public viewing. But I'll be doing a members only video once a month or twice a month. But to answer your question, I don't know. I said I sold a card at the start that I wanted to keep long term. I sold it for good money. I'll just wait and see what happens, to be honest. I'm going to be very selective with what it is I am chasing. You know, if the right thing pops up, I'll take it. But for the time being, I'm not actively buying anything. I guess the one thing I'd be looking at would be what's what I'm looking for? A Bill Russell autograph, either flawless, early flawless, maybe 2014, 2013, gold auto specifically, or a first year eminence auto. So they'd be the two things I'd be looking at, but in no rush to grab them. I think the market's a bit hot right now, so I might wait a little bit longer. I think in the absolute worst case, my money for the time being is going to go to my next few tattoos. Because like I said in that intro, or at the start of the video, I am working on a bodysuit. So the money might go there for the time being. 41, earlier you bought a card from 98 in 2022. That was Pop 2 when I bought it, now Pop 40 plus. Crazy. I found out the very first auto card, one pull in a random pack, was Reggie Jackson back in 1990 from Upper Deck. I couldn't afford Upper Deck back then, or you could have hit it. Probably not, because those things were printed in the bloody trillions. It's -1 in Cleveland. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit? Oh, the conversion is always very confusing to me. What's up, Dan? How's it going? Vendora. So many scams, so little time, exactly. Hey, Dan, are you going to Independence? It's fantastic. Not. What did you mean, Carl? What am I missing there? I'm not sure what you mean. Thoughts on Topps only letting breakers get Topps basketball? It's stupid, but I think that's the new norm, and like it's not going to get better. So who knows? I'm focused on my set builds, upgrading certain cards, etc. Stuff I enjoy. Anything to get away from the nonsense in the hobby. Yeah, like the nonsense is only small, right? Like it only happens, you know, every now and then. It's obviously just exacerbated because of social media and stuff like that. But the hobby is fantastic, right? We've been around it our whole lives. That's a no-brainer. We don't need to talk about that. But don't let the negative news get to you, even though my channel is like focused on that. It's simply there to help people. What are we going to do now? The Topps doesn't have any comparable brands to Panini, such as Immaculate Floss, etc. This sucks. I think Panini should really go hard at doing non-sports things. I think they should keep producing non-licensed stuff, and they'll make some money off the back of it. But it'd be really cool for them to sort of eat into some of Upper Deck's revenue streams and actually go for some of this licensed stuff, like the Marvel movies. Do like a Predator freaking autograph set. Like the reason why that's top of mind is because I've got some Alien cards here. Oh shit. Just dropped some slabs on the floor, but I've got some cards here from like the Upper Deck release from Alien Anthology a few years ago. Like this shit's cool. Like I love this non-sports crap. And it was always really expensive in Australia, so I don't have a whole lot of it. But you know, that's the kind of stuff that Panini should go after. Like do some cards for like He-Man that's about to come out. Do some cards for all these awesome movies that are coming up. Do something like that. Like try and be a bit more competitive and do something a little bit different. The only accurate pop report number is the PSA 10 pop. Completely agree. Australia used to be Strongsville. card deal, set, inserts, and PC for me. I hate when people refer to tops as actually tops_tops card as yeah, I don't know. Not sure what you're saying there. Sorry, brain is a bit cooked today. Yeah, exactly. That's why they're in slabs. Or to be honest, that pot report's going to stay accurate until BGS is king again, or until CGC is king. Like, it's going to be very fickle. It's going to change. Vendor, yep, enjoy. I always wondered why the hobby gets so much hate for what you buy. Panini did great with their Golden Age brand in 2012, 13, 14. Yeah, I agree. Like, they came out with a bang, right? Like, to release, you had Prism, Select, Flawless, Eminence all come out with back to back to back, right? Was there anything else that came out around then that would have been new? Like, first year, second year Select were awesome. Then second year Select's my favorite product of all time. Like, they just went balls deep with their first few releases, and they just rode the wave for the preceding 10 years. So, yeah, like, if they were to do something like that again with something different, right? Like, not sports cards clearly, but maybe non-sports cards or other things, like, they still got a place in this hobby. So yeah, Leaf just scares me for, like, the legitimacy of the autographs. There's been a lot of questions in the past around those. And I just get really uncomfortable. Like, I'd put money there if the cards were cheap, if that makes sense. Like, if they're a bit more affordable, I'd put the money there. If not, you know, I'd avoid it. I wouldn't feel comfortable having big ticket items there, but that's just me maybe being ignorant than anything else. Not a question, but a statement. Ship my cards is for 3 months now. Newbie, working in great timely customer service to fix issues and requests. Yeah, like, they're my favorite hobby business, to be perfectly honest with you. They're really approachable on social media. They do a really good job getting back to you if you have questions on the platform itself. They do fantastic with the photographs they take and the videos they record of the packages. I've been using them for like 6 years now. They are phenomenal, and they've only been, you know, giving me some money for the last few months. So that's not just the fact they're paying me for saying it. They're fantastic. And Brian, who is the owner, is a great dude. He's an out and out collector. Like, that's how a hobby business should be run, exactly like them. So again, you're a newbie, glad to see it's working out well for you. If there's anybody else that's not using it, the promo code's down below. Like, go ahead and use them, because they're fantastic. One of the best hobby businesses, head and shoulders, in my opinion. Yeah, $1,000 worth of Lulu cards I'm delivering to Carl in Ohio. Is there another hobby where you get talked down upon because you bought something that offers others don't like? That's every hobby, to be perfectly honest with you. Would it be a hobby if you didn't have elitists talking shit and saying what you're doing is good or bad? Like, if you think sports cards is bad, go look at, you know, video games or comic books. By the way, Dan, just want to give you a huge thanks for all your help when dealing with card hobby. Glad I could help. That was a really unfortunate situation, right? I still buy cards off Card Hobby every now and then. Unfortunately, it feels like there's a lot of shill bidding that happens on their platform. But, you know, when I discovered them, I got a lot of really good deals, which is why I made my videos about them. It would have been this time in 2023, or maybe November, December 23, then January 24. And right as that happened, they essentially exploded, and their turnaround times hit the roof, hit the moon. A lot of questions came up, a lot of issues came up, and it was right after I shouted them out to everybody, which was really heartbreaking, to be honest, because I don't like telling people to go ahead and use something that ends up being dog shit. But, you know, glad that I could help you in the end. And that's also where my frustration goes towards people, right? Because Card Hobby didn't pay me. I just shouted them out because I wanted people to use the platform. And I still felt an obligation to help people like yourself. Whereas you've got people out there taking money from some of these sponsors that A, don't use the company they're telling you to go ahead and use, or B, they're happy to take the money, but then when things go wrong, they don't give a shit about you as the viewer, right? So that's where a lot of frustration for me comes up with all this kind of crap. You got PSA'd. I got a comment that magazines are the next grit. I feel like that grift, I think that's already happened, right? Panini getting exclusivity to Kobe in 2012 to 16 really got them off the ground. Plus, Topps not having basketball and football licensing helped. I liked. I think one of my favorite Panini era cards is actually the 2014 World Cup Prism card of Kobe they put in there for the soccer tournament. I just think that's a really obscure card in terms of the hobby itself, and I get a feeling that card might be worth a lot of money long term because it's so different, right? You've basically got, you know, a Kobe Bryant autograph in a soccer set, which I think is pretty awesome. Yeah, they just got greedy, right, and started to print the money hand over fist. And it got progressively worse. Select 13, 14, still my favorite set of all time, though I've said that time and time again. I had some on my desk earlier because I'm trying to build a set for that, but yeah. What you mean is Real Tops cards are only prior to Fanatics. Yeah, I agree. They're not the same, and clearly it's been a very different shift in their mindset. One thing about a bad experience, food or whatever you buy have so-so experience. All we want is accountability. Shit happens, we get it. Just exactly. And like I said with the video from Tops the other day, like a mistake with misprinting on a box, you know, it shouldn't happen in 2026, but, you know, you can understand why, you know, they might drop the ball with something. Like the thing you want to see from them is not the mistake, it's how you respond. When I look at sort of this stuff from a day job perspective or things that I've researched in the past about financial crime and things like that, the thing that's really important as part of that process is like a mistake is going to happen, but it's how you react, which is the most important thing, right? If you've got somebody that was involved in some kind of scam or some kind of financial crime, them not speaking up is worse, right? Because you had an opportunity to do the right thing, you didn't. And mistakes happen. You can do the wrong thing. You can let something slip, whatever. But if you have the opportunity there to correct it and you don't, and that's how you want to respond, or you want to respond by hiding and running away, like that just makes the whole thing even worse. So the fact that you can have mistakes happen and these businesses just go and put the blinders on and put their head in the sand is, you know, unacceptable. With good customer service and a bad experience, I would give them another shot. Yeah, like exactly. I've got 5 more minutes, guys. 4 more minutes because the kids need some help. They're going bananas with my wife. So I do apologize. The shipping and non-shipping thing on eBay is so bad. Every time my item isn't shipped, and then weeks or months down the track, you see them up one on sale again, and eBay do nothing. It's a joke. Like, I'm sure there's ways they could, you know, automate that. I think AI is going to help them. Towards the start of this video, I talked about a video coming out in about 12 hours about this new scam on eBay. People using AI to pretend that cards are damaged, to alter images to show that the card arrived damaged, to then get refunds and also keep the card. That's a really dangerous thing for AI on eBay. But, you know, I'm sure they could use AI to sort of fix what you're flagging here. So, you know, I'm not going to repeat myself with what I said earlier. Go ahead and watch my video in about 12 hours time. But that shit is pretty scary, using AI to scam sellers on eBay. You guys need to be very, very careful with that. Next scam, Dan the Man, will be Fanatics deciding only way to buy cards will be with crypto only. I'm curious to see whether they approach that, to be honest. He's right, don't we feel like the bag up when I want my 20 back that I lent to you? I think you're replying to a different comment. But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like crypto's dropping a bit, so maybe if it was still pumping. But yeah, who knows? Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'll give you guys maybe like a few more minutes for some questions. Good chat, as always. Next week, I'll do a longer live stream. Like I said, ship my cards a little bit earlier. There's Cardman 10 to get $10 credit for signing up. I don't get a kickback off the back of it. They just send me a bit of money each month for sponsoring the channel. But it's a good way to sort of get some money back from them. If you want to sign up to be a channel member like Jerry, who I really appreciate for doing that, go ahead and do that. You can get the link down below. You get access to like emojis and icons, and then dedicated videos once a month and things like that, and also early release to videos. It's just a good way to help me on the channel with some of my costs for like the Canva subscriptions and things like that, and my video editing software and the thumbnail editing software and all that sort of stuff. But again, no pressure. I've said it time and time again, no pressure. You can do it if you want. You don't have to if you don't want to. I won't budge an eyelid, but it just makes things a little bit better for me. So yeah, another 30 seconds for questions, and then I'll dip. Daniel's gonna dip. Let me just reply to a text message. I see no questions, guys. I'll leave it there. Thank you all, and yeah, stay tuned for this video in 12 hours. This eBay scam crap is ridiculous, and I think it's going to get a lot worse. I've given a few suggestions in that video on tips and tricks on how you guys can be protected, so go ahead and check that out. Well, that's why you got to keep saying please and thank you every time you ask ChatGPT to do something for you, right? So when Skynet goes live, they actually remember you as being a good guy and maybe come after us last. Arena Club Studios is my studio. If Arena Club want to pay me enough money, sure, I'll happily take their money and still shit on them, as I've done with PSA. When I say PSA, I mean Card Ladder. Card Ladder is clearly a sponsor of the channel. They allow me to sort of still freely speak my mind when it comes to PSA. Yeah. Jeff Wilson makes a video about gambling and the addictions of it, and then cuts the video in the middle and says, brought to you by Arena Club. Like, fucking insane. Dude's got no hair, no brain. Okay, all good, boys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.